country of Bangladesh, located next to India and under China, is currently undergoing a countrywide telecommunications blackout, effectively isolating its 170 million residents from the rest of the world. This occurred after student protests demanding a reform of the job reservation system began on the 1st of July this year. This system reserves 26% of civil service jobs for protected classes and, more contentiously, an additional 30% for the descendants of freedom fighters. As a result, only 44% of civil service jobs are assigned based on merit alone. The students claim that the quota for freedom fighters is super unfair and is basically only used to garner favors from supporters of the current ruling party. As such, they want to completely abolish this quota and reform the rest in order to have 97% of positions be allocated on merit alone. These protests are part of a larger struggle for reform that has erupted into mass protests time and time again. To understand this struggle, you must first learn the formation of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Until 1947, the entire Indian subcontinent was under British colonial rule. The Radcliffe Line, established during British withdrawal, partitioned the region into two distinct nations, Pakistan and India. Pakistan consisted of Muslim-majority regions in the northwest and east, called West and East Pakistan respectively. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who will later be known as the father of Bangladesh, had many movements in collaboration with the Dhaka University Student Union, fighting for less discrimination, better representation, and more equality to protect the rights of people in East Pakistan. As a result, his party, the Awami League, won an absolute landslide in the East Pakistan elections with a strong majority in Pakistan overall. Generals from West Pakistan, unsatisfied with the results, arrested Mujib and launched a massive military operation alongside the help of a local paramilitary group known as the Rajakars. This operation amounted to an ethnic genocide against the people of Bangladesh. After 9 long months of fierce struggles, the local resistance movement was successful, leading to Mujib being released and elected as the first president of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Along with the Awami League, he created a new constitution and enacted the quota system, which reserved 30% of all government jobs for the freedom fighters that fought against genocide and helped form the country. At the end of his first term, unwilling to cede power, he turned the country into a one-party state and declared himself as the president. This would be short-lived, however, as on the 15th of August 1975, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated alongside most of his family during a military coup, foreshadowing a pattern of military intervention and democratic backsliding. For 15 years, coup after coup was tantamount to military dictators playing hot potato with the governance of the country. This time period saw mass privatization of state-owned institutions, suppression of political expression, and the banning of trade unions. This, coupled with dire food shortages, a budget deficit, and the IMF refusing more loans, resulted in mass discontent and horrific economic conditions. In 1990, once again led by the Dhaka University Student Union, mass protests were organized against the authoritarian government, which turned violent once police fired upon a rally. Over the course of months, major exiled political parties banded together in a 3-way alliance to force a transition into a truly democratic government for the first time in nearly 20 years. Unfortunately, this would not set a trend, as every single election since has been accused of political oppression, rigged voting, and violence against opposition leaders. As a result, Bangladesh has continued to suffer economically and has been accused of human rights abuses. The current Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina from the Awami League Party, is one of the surviving daughters of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and has used this connection, along with populist rhetoric, in order to stay in control of the government for the past 16 years. Mass violence, protests, and pleas for reform have occurred consistently throughout her tenure. Prominent examples include the 2008 political crisis, 2010 garment workers crisis, 2013 Shahbag protests, 2018 road safety protests, 2018 job quota protests, and 2023 garment workers strike. The consequences of consistent nationwide protests have garnered criticisms from major international organizations, but the government has mostly refused to take action. The only exception was the 2018 job quota protest, which led to massive reform, with the removal of the quota for higher-tiered government jobs, placing them all on merit. The students of the University of Dhaka played a central role in achieving these, with a price paid in blood. This brings us to early 2024. Poor management during the COVID-19 pandemic has led to an economic crisis. Year-on-year inflation has risen above 9%. Youth inactivity rates are up to at least 40%, with a high level of informal employment for those who are employed. And 70% of households report that rising food prices are their biggest concern. A low level of private sector growth leaves public sector jobs as the only reliable method for upward social mobility. Additionally, harsh crackdowns against political dissent have led to falling trust in the government. The country is in dire straits, and anything can cause massive outrage. On the 5th of June 2024, the High Court of Bangladesh deemed the 2018 cancellation of civil service job quotas to be unconstitutional and issued their immediate restatement. This decision was widely regarded to be politically motivated and so served as a catalyst for the protests that began on the 1st of July. The protests began with peaceful marches in the capital city of Dhaka, among other major cities, blocking roads and highways, with some protesters laying logs on railway tracks. They brought traffic to a halt all across the country. On the 14th, Prime Minister Hasina gave an inflammatory speech in which she compared the protesters to the Rajakars who had traded from the country since 1971. In a shocking turn of events, this did not quell the protests and only served to agitate them further. They leaned into it and started to chant, "Who are we? Rajakars, Rajakars. Who called us this? The dictator, dictator." On the 15th, the Chhatra League, a student wing of the ruling party, enraged by the aforementioned chant, began to attack the protesting students, armed with rods, clubs, and revolvers. The next day, police forces joined in and reportedly used shotguns to kill a protesting student, causing a massive escalation in violence. On the 17th, PM Hasina gave another speech, this time requesting the protesters to calm down, with assurances that they would not be disappointed with the results of a Supreme Court appeal to the High Court's decision. She also ensured that all casualties would be investigated. This was not enough to calm the students down. Seeing this, the next day the army was called in to assist local police forces who were also overwhelmed. On the 19th, telecommunications were cut off, cutting outside contact and slowing down protesters. The next day, a curfew was imposed to make things worse. On Sunday, the Supreme Court, in an expedited decision, ruled that the quotas would be reduced to 5% for the families of freedom fighters and 2% to protected groups. The students appreciated the verdict but were not satisfied as the quota for freedom fighters was not removed. Moreover, at this point, the protests had evolved past solely the quota system and had expanded to people calling for a complete resignation of the ruling party. With more than 130 confirmed casualties and hundreds more injured, whether these demands would be met soon remains to be seen. Bangladeshi people have for decades struggled and fought for their own rights, their own identity, and their own culture. At the center of it all, the students of Dhaka have always been at the forefront of bringing about change, and they still fight at this very moment to bring about a change that they know to be right while being oppressed.